Welcome to the video. In this video we're going to take a very quick look at the Taranis and particularly how you mix individual channels into an output. Now this has already been covered in far more detail in the Taranis series that's already up there. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of how all this works, then those videos already exist. The reason we're creating this video is there's been a specific question from a subscriber about how do you mix a flap switch onto something like the elevator so that as you deploy the flaps, the elevator has a little bit of automatic correction, and that's what we're going to look at here quickly. So again, if you're interested in this, go and watch the Taranis videos. It goes into far more detail. This is to just help a specific subscriber who's a little bit confused, and it's easy to get confused with this radio because although OpenTx is fantastically powerful, sometimes the most basic things that on a more simple radio the mix is already set up and you just turn it on and off and dial in how much correction you want. You have to kind of set it up on this. So let's stop talking and get on with the actual setup. I've created a little model here. If we go into the menus and look at the inputs, we have the standard 4 inputs for a model. We have the throttle, aileron, elevator and rudder, and then we also have the outputs of those set. So each of these channels corresponds to the connection on the radio receiver actually on the model. So we'll be plugging the throttle into channel 1, aileron, servo into channel 2, etc. And it's automatically set up because when we created the model on the radio, it said, did I have flaps? And I said, yes, 1 servo. It's popped that onto channel 6. So I would plug my flap servo into channel 6 and it's directly connecting channel 6 to switch SA, which is up here at the top. So as I move switch A, then that's deploying the flaps. Now let's show you what that looks like if we come out of here and get the channel monitor on. This is a great little screen for when you're trying to do mixes to make sure they're all working. If you watch channel 6, as I move that 3-position switch, you can see it moving the flaps. So typically the way you'd set it up on the model was that would be flaps up, then that would be half flaps, and that would be full flaps. Now I'm not a very big fan of always having the inputs of switches directly connected to a mix. I like to always, whenever I'm using a switch, is to actually add that to an input. You'll see that in all the other videos that we do, but this one is the simplest method for those of you that want to keep it easy. So now what we want to do then is mix switch SA, which is the one that we're using to control channel 6, onto the elevator channel. So the way we do that is the simple easiest way is to highlight channel 3 just using up and down buttons, press and hold enter, and then say insert after. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix a little bit of that switch in with the elevator control that we've already got. So we're going to click insert after. It'll ask us for a mix name. I'd always recommend that you name your mixes because in a particularly complicated model, trying to then unpick stuff later on if you have a problem can be really tricky if you haven't called it something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a name. So I'm going to call it something like flap. Okay, now the source, I'm going to hit enter, and I'm just going to flick SA again. That's the switch that we'd already had set up for channel 6 if you remember. So we're just going to say I want a bit of SA on this as well, switch A. And then this is the bit that's a bit clever. Now the weight, this is how much of switch A do you want coming across. Now at the moment we don't want all of it because right now it's driving the servo from one extreme to the other. So what we're going to do is going to highlight that and we'll drop it down to, well, I don't know, maybe 15 or something like that. And what you'll notice in the little screen by the side, you can see now that rather than the bars go from side to side, as I reduce that number, you can see the width of the effect reducing as well. So if you had too much of the switch going onto the elevator, so the elevator was overcorrecting, this is where you change it. Now the other thing you can do here of course is if you press and hold the plus and minus buttons, you can also change the direction. So if the elevator you find is being corrected in the wrong direction, you can just change it from a minus to a plus, and that will change the amount or the direction of the change that you're making. So there we are. We'll keep it at 20 because that's easy to see. Now the offset, at the moment the way it will work is as I flick switch A, it's going to, when the flaps are up, it's going to give us a little bit of correction in one direction. When the flaps are in the middle, it'll give us no correction, and then when the flaps switch A is in the final position, it'll give us correction in the final direction. So it's actually going to work in the wrong way. So what we need to do is use the offset to move everything across. So I'm going to set that up to 20. And what you'll notice here now is rather than go from -20 to +20, it goes from 0 to 40. Okay, so let me show you what that's done. We'll come out of all of here. You can see now that on channel 3, which is the elevator, we have the main input from the elevator input, which is all in the inputs bit, and we're mixing 20% of the switch A, which we called flap. So let's come out of here, go back into that monitor. So there, channel 3 is our elevator. So if I move the elevator, there it is moving around. Now watch what happens as I switch SA now. We're going to see something move on channel 6, but we're also going to see it move on channel 3, which is this little correction that we've got. So switch is in the top position, which probably flaps up. Middle position, there you have it, you see. Now the channel 6 has gone to the middle position, and also you've got a little bit of change on the elevator. If I flick SA again, then there we are, we've got full flaps and a little bit more of a correction as well. So that is the easiest way to do it. Personally, I would do it using an input, but for those of you that don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty of programming this, that's the easiest way to do it. So what you need to do is just go into your mixes and then add a new mix for whatever control you're using for flaps, and then change the weight to the amount of correction that you want, or the amount of the flap switch going onto the control. And again, you can change that up and down if you find the elevator's moving too much or too little. If it's moving in the wrong direction, change the polarity from positive to minus, and then make the offset the same number so that the actual change it's making goes from 0, which is no change, to a positive number, and vice versa, so that that way the correction is all in the right direction on your elevator. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel, and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.